So this is the very first podcast recording for In Her Skin. My name is Corey Palick, and I'm here with my lovely guests,
Katherine Willikis.
And just to do little intros, I own my own business, Glow Esthetics, which is what has prompted this podcast, their interest in this podcast. Although it is an aesthetics company, we will not be talking about aesthetics the whole time. We'll talk about a lot more interesting things that women deal with on a daily basis because there's a lot more interest there. Let's be honest. I am a nurse and nurse practitioner. I've been doing aesthetics on the side as my side gig for approximately 8 years altogether. Now have my own company. Also, in conjunction, was working as a heart failure nurse practitioner at Morristown Hospital, which I just quit to give this business my full attention. I am also a wife of 4 years to Timothy Palick and a mother to Audrey Emerson Palick, who is 10 months old today.
Happy birthday.
Yes. There's a lot more there, and we'll get to all of that, but that's me in a nutshell.
Okay. My name again is Katherine, and I'm a friend of Corey for probably 3 years now.
Yeah, I guess
3 or
so.
4 years. I am a mother. I am a wife of 11 years. My daughter's name is Amelia Kathleen Willikis. I am a entrepreneur and a business owner in the equestrian industry. I own a hay company, like horse hay. It's called Equi-Hay. I'm an equestrian. I have show jumping horses. Animals are a very big part of our lives. I have been married to my husband Mark for, 8 years. We've been together for 11 years. Prior to pursuing my hay business career, I was a publisher for a niche publication in the Halloween industry, holiday which is actually coming up very soon. I've got lots of animals, horses, dogs, cats. But yeah, that's me.
All right.
There you go.
So, before we get into the questions, I guess one more thing I wanted to answer was why I wanted to do this. Being in the aesthetics business for a number of years now, I have seen, and just being a woman in general, I've seen the way that the aesthetics industry has played on women's insecurities and really tried to make it a point to do the complete opposite of that in the way that I approach women and how I'm looking to help them. And to that point, I've really wanted to kind of have a forum to speak more on some of the issues that women deal with day to day, because I think that they're very universal to all of us, but for some reason, many of us feel as though we're dealing with things on our own.
In a vacuum.
Yes.
Yep.
And I would love to kind of get stuff out there to help people feel that, or realize, I should say, that they're not alone, and that these are things that that probably the majority of women think and deal with and experience. So that was kind of what made me interested in addressing those issues, and this forum is kind of new and cool and allows us to do that and just sit down on my couch and drink wine and kind of put it out there and hope that people are interested to listen.
It's a great platform.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Very good.
I don't know if you want to say why you would be interested in participating.
We're buddies.
Yeah.
I am a wife and a mother and a woman, and while I'm very candid and willing to speak my mind all the time, you guys will learn to get to know my openness. I feel that being able to have an outlet to vent, commiserate, just share a day's frustrations or triumphs, there's something nice about it that while you and I can banter back and forth, another woman sitting in Oklahoma City could be listening and being like, you know what, I can relate, or no, I can't relate, but they like hearing a comic relief entertainment. So,
Right.
You know, lots of reasons.
And maybe they don't have anybody to banter with.
Valid. Right.
We have a number of questions prepared to kind of get the conversational juices flowing.
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
If you would like to
Sure.
grab.
This is one for you. And then I can follow up. First date with your spouse. What was it like? And we're drinking wine here, yes. We'll get back to you.
Let me get that in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
The short version.
Yeah, that we really had an official date. My husband and I met because we lived in the same house, basically, this Victorian house that was turned into apartments. I lived downstairs, he lived upstairs, and the whole group of us decided to go out one night and, you know, get to know each other a little bit. And in doing so, we found out that we really liked each other. And when I got to the bar, he had just gotten himself a drink, and I was walking up to the bar, and he said, "Oh, like, you know, can I get you a drink?" And I said, No, you just got yourself. I'll grab mine and I'll meet up with you. And that scenario is something that he continually brings up and makes fun of me for, because that was to him me saying, "F you, I can get my own drink.
I don't need help." Right.
And while that is very consistent with my personality, I really didn't mean that.
Sincerely, we're okay.
I really, wanted him to go, "Hey,
right.
he just got himself. I was good. I can get my own."
Okay.
So that was, not really a first date, but that was how we did meet the first time,
Okay.
and then we did eventually go on somewhat of a first date after that.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Mark and I were a little bit more deliberate in our actions. I had been single prior to meeting him for probably about 3 years. I had the breakup prior to meeting Mark. Went on to Match.com, and I wasn't husband shopping, but I was looking for something functional. We'll get into what that means shortly. However,
There's a lot of places to go with that.
Right. So, with being efficient here, so I was supposed to meet a gentleman who we'll call John on a Monday. I was going away the weekend prior to an equine competition in northern upstate New York, and basically corresponded with Mark and said, "I'm so sorry, I can't meet you. How about Tuesday for coffee?" He's like, "Well, where are you going all weekend, and what's wrong with Monday?" And I was like, "Well, aren't you a little presumptuous?" So he ended up, coincidentally, having two siblings who are both sisters who actually are playing in the same equine realm horsing that I do. The sister happened to have been at the competition that I was going to. Our circles had crossed paths. So I say, "Well, I'm going to be up there." He's like, "Well, so am I." Now, mind you, he had been to an equine competition probably 9 years. He drove 3.5 hours for a blind date to meet me. Our first interaction, I was on a horse in full costume, sweaty because it was the middle of July, and so-and-so says, everybody knew this was transpiring. So-and-so says, "Oh, Katherine, aren't you here to meet Mark?" And I looked down from atop of my horse, and there was a tall, dark-haired man holding a dog next to me. Now, mind you, I was taller than him because I'm on a 1,200-pound animal. So that was interesting. So later that night, back at the hotel, my girlfriend was like, "Are you going to go?" And I was like, I don't want to. I was lazy, I was hot, and I just showered.
So funny. I said the same thing before I met Tim.
I didn't
want
want to go out that night. So I literally threw on, random jeans, t-shirt, flip-flop, and we went to the Red Onion, which is actually a really nice restaurant up in Woodstock, New York. That's the area we're near. And we went on a blind date, kind of blind date, and talked about everything.
Well, now you were eye to eye as opposed to.
Well, right now I was not
looking down
correct.
on him like a servant.
Right, like a servant. And then the rest was history. We had dinner. We then subsequently went to the bar of the Holiday Inn where his family and sisters were staying. We drank the bar closed. As he says, I ate his face, making out with him drunk as I left him in the parking lot, and saw him every day thereafter. There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Question 1 in the books. Moving on.
Both of those stories have more details to them.
Yes, but
we'll get to those at some point.
We'll elaborate in chapter 2.
Yes.
Go ahead, your turn.
What would you tell your teenage self?
Wow. Well, we'll keep it G-rated since this is chapter 1.
You don't have to.
No?
No.
Okay.
This is for real.
Okay. So, a topic that Corey and I will both get into much detail with later is...
We'll definitely have a full podcast on.
Good.
Yeah.
Is fertility, or infertility, in her case and in my case. So what I would tell my teenage self, that my reproductive organs don't work to the capacity that the normal person does, and I probably would have spent a lot less time worrying about conceiving as a early adolescent into my college years. I could have spent money on all the things versus pregnancy tests, and I probably would have just had a lot of sex. But
Protected.
Yes,
but not as much. Protected.
I wouldn't have been so worried about, not having the right timing in conceiving a child. I would have just been a lot more blasé about it.
There you go.
There you go. That's my honest answer. Okay.
What would I tell my teenage self? There's a lot of things, but the one that comes to mind at this moment is not to plan so strategically, because shit's not going to work out the way you think. It's going to work out great, and it's going to work out as cliche as it sounds, and the way it's supposed to. But it's not going to be this thing that you can sit down and write on a piece of paper in this organized manner, the way I literally did my entire life as a teenager and young adult. Literally, I'll share this little piece because this kind of, I think, paints an interesting picture of me. When I was, 10, 11, when you would go to your friend's house to sleep over, I would write out an agenda with specific times of what we were going to do at each time.
A planner.
Yes. Whether it was watch a movie, play a game, eat popcorn, whatever it may be, I had specific times and the activities listed. And as that changed, I would adjust it, but I would have to make sure to erase and, change the times.
Without getting all psychological, I have a psychology degree. Not that means anything. Right? But that is probably a great coping mechanism. Yes. Or mechanism that you internalize and then executed, because having order and control is so safe. So safe.
Yes. Safe. When you don't have order and control in your life, you find a way to create it in whatever way.
That is, you have to in order to stay standing.
Correct.
Up.
Correct.
Right.
So that was me at 10 or 11. So imagine, that progressed. And so I had very distinct goals and times and, objectives with my life and career and all of those things. Yeah. Which I met with a lot of career-wise and life goals, but then I realized, oh shit, maybe I should have factored in a little bit more happiness. And I think that rounds me back to what I would say to myself as a teenager, is that taking into account your happiness and trusting your gut
Damn right.
is
Paramount.
yes.
Yeah, I agree. Question. All right. Hardest part about being a wife.
You want to take that?
Gladly. Well, in my life, I am a mother and a wife and a business owner. I'm also responsible for half a dozen animals, large and small, which makes me sound a little bit like a zookeeper. I'm not, I swear.
Your house is very clean.
My house is very clean.
It sounds like it would be dirty, but it's
No,
not
most
at all.
most of the animals live at a boarding facility, but there's a lot of time and responsibility and selflessness that goes into having all these animals. It's a choice, it's a gift, but it's time. So I think the hardest part about being a wife, in my case, is I do it all. I'm good at it. I don't need help. But when I have a husband who does all of the things that he does well, but it's not that he has to pull his weight or I have to pull my weight. There's a balance, and it's not 50-50, 60-40. There's just a harmony, like a tug and a flow of a marriage and a relationship. And so the conversation I had with my spouse prior to coming here this evening, I don't want to be your mother. I want you to kiss me on the back of my neck in the morning, smack my ass, say I'll see you later, and him go off to work, and me be the primary and sole caretaker, provider for our home, my hay business, my child's life, all of the animals and all the things. I don't want to be a mother. I don't want to have to be
Not to him.
to him. I don't want to have to be the literal and figurative post-it note of his life. I don't want to
And
have
a nag.
That's what
Ugh,
I don't.
Who wants to be
Well,
a nag?
That is what I am.
Don't turn me into a nag.
But that's
right?
what I am,
Right.
and I don't want that.
Right.
I want to be what I am. Don't make me into this, because truly, how many nights in a row, weeks on end, do I say, hey, it's your turn to grab milk. Get almond milk and get milk for our daughter. And he'll forget. Literally, every week for like the past 6 times, the man has forgotten to pick up the fucking milk. Or, prime example, this evening, we've been talking about me joining Corey for this inaugural podcast session. Please be home by 5 p.m. He strolls in at 5:45. Oh, well, I thought you wanted me to leave work around 5:15-ish. So, the hardest part about being a wife is having a rational balance of expectations, of demands, of not being a nag but having standards. Marriage is hard, folks. Being a wife is hard. There you go. That's my my take.
Yeah. You know, I said to my husband Tim, before we even had our daughter, I kept saying to him, once this child comes, we have to be very diligent about maintaining our relationship. Going out on dates, having times when we actually speak to each other, not about the child. You know, really taking time. And I think he like, yeah, whatever, kind of like didn't get it. And I, reiterated that doesn't mean that we're taking time away from loving our daughter.
No.
Because you have a child and you love them immediately. It's
That's not the point.
right away, immediate, for the rest of your life, always. The love for your spouse is not that way. You have to choose it
And work at it.
every day, and that's when you really love somebody. You still have to do it. That's
It's
still
a
the
test.
case.
It's a
Right.
test. Yeah.
And I think that now that we've had her, he understands much more of what I mean, because it's very, very easy for days on end to go by without us having real conversation. We talk about our daughter, we talk about business. But having a real conversation amongst ourselves about us is...
Or laughing about something
or
silly.
yeah, absolutely.
Like authentically
Absolutely.
just in the moment.
Absolutely.
With no other shit involved.
That is, that's more difficult, and you really have to make it a priority. And
Totally.
I think that if you don't, you're setting yourself up for disaster, regardless of how much love there is, regardless of how good a relationship you have, all those things.
I agree.
Because just like a friendship, it's a choice that you're making to maintain that relationship. Always. Plenty of people get divorced that really like each other a lot, but it just doesn't work. So it's definitely something that you have to work at every day.
Yeah.
And to Catherine's point, not being made into a mother figure in that scenario is really important, because holding on to being a woman, being and being sexual and being all the things that initially brought you together, even though that morphs and changes, of course, is really important. And when you are a mother already, you feel so like frumpy in that role sometimes, and so focused in that role.
Things shift, yeah.
And priorities change. Obviously, you're not going to care about having a full face of makeup on when your daughter has a dirty diaper and is crying and needs to be fed and everything. Like that shit goes to the wayside. So still being able to feel like a woman when you have poop on your leg that's not yours is important.
Right. Wifing's hard.
Yeah.
We're going to go to our next question, but my take-home point when I'm having a really frustrated day is I want a wife. I got the short end of the goddamn stick. I'm sorry. We get married. We get the rock on our finger. We get the big wedding. I had fireworks at mine. It was a big frickin' to-do. He got a wife and I got a husband. And I'm not saying that getting a husband isn't fundamentally epic and a big deal, but I want a wife. I want another one of me to run around and do all the things that I don't want to do. Anyway, I want a wife. Not all days, but some days.
I hear you.
Okay.
We gotta find that bitch.
We do. We'll share her.
What role should a man play in your life? My answer to that would be a partner. To kind of piggyback on the last question.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to be mothers to our husbands, we would like partners from our husbands. I'm sure a lot of women out there feel the same, but I can definitely speak for both of us that we could most certainly take care of ourselves. This is not an issue of, this is not 1950.
No.
We don't need somebody to put food on the table.
No.
We need somebody to
be there.
Super cheesy, and fulfill us and partner with us to
companionship,
make a life that we both are happy, working on both of our happinesses.
Right.
And again, that constant check-in. How are you? Are you getting everything you need?
Right. Okay, and an interesting dynamic. So Tim is Corey's husband. Tim is helping Corey fundamentally with all of the marketing. Corey's the artist behind some of the techniques that she does, but the bigger lifestyle brand that is trying to be created here and brought to the forefront of women's attention, Tim is a backbone of that, and he's very good at that because he's an integral part to your business. My life, my husband and I work integrally together in the company that we have, which is our Hey Company. And so while I'm at the party, I know all the people, I know all the contacts, my face and my reputation and my name is how I'm getting in the doors to all the people to sell our product. My husband is the math guy. My husband is the logistics guy. So together we create this well-oiled machine, and it's actually proving to be successful, but we work. I talk to him 14 times a day on the telephone, and I come home and I look at him and I want to be like, and then it's our child, and then we put her to bed, and then he sits down on the couch, and for the first time all day he decompresses, and for the first time all day I decompress,
and we have nothing left.
But there's nothing left.
Right.
And then we both shower, and on a rare occasion, we're both clean, and we both have remote energy, and we'll
have sex.
We have sex, maybe, but we're usually like mid, like late night, early morning, because we needed to sleep some hours before we could like remotely close to have enough energy. But the dynamic of our relationships is both of our spouses are very similar, and we work together. We both have, one child, similar stories, similar patterns. So I would say that my response would be very similar because we are very similar.
And it puts another spin and dynamic into the relationship that's, marriage is already complicated on its own.
Yep.
And then to put into that the business aspect, being business owners, it is awesome in a lot of ways.
Great, yeah.
Especially when you complement, Tim and I are very similar as far as he does a lot of, the logistical piece. He kind of, to be honest, saw in me what I was doing, but not necessarily cognitively processing what my why was and what I was doing.
He saw the bigger picture.
He helped me realize, what my real purpose was in this work and in this business. And so that piece is really cool.
Yeah.
However, there's a dynamic that gets difficult when you're partnering in life and partnering in business
and in parenting
all
this
and you're not always going to love what that other person is maybe bringing to the table at every moment in that, and
Absolutely.
Sometimes that's tough. We actually recently hired some guys to help us with strategy, and in that strategy, it's kind of allowing them to step in as mediators to some degree.
But that's healthy. That's a great idea.
Yeah,
great idea.
Which has been pretty helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've kind of given each of us tasks independently, and then they will check in on how we're.
They're
doing with those
mediators.
tasks.
Yeah, exactly. Good idea.
So it's a good thing to do, because at some point you have to stop and just be husband and wife.
Yeah, that's getting back to the husband. Right. You have to be. But again, even if it was only 4 years ago or 8, 9 years ago, whatever it was for myself, a lot of life happens from the day that you looked maybe your best or felt your best or were on the biggest high from, the day and the dress and all the things. No. Right. Life, there's a lot of life that takes place from that first look to where we are.
And sometimes that brings you closer.
Right.
And sometimes it makes you want to punch each other in the face.
Yes. On that note, we're going to go to our next question. Okay. I'm going to speak from my personal self. I have always been interested in makeup and hair. I learned how to French braid not because my mother was a good mother and braided my hair every day and sent me to school in pretty bows. She was an entrepreneur and she worked. I learned on my dolls. I was the girl in high school who, prior to all the fancy dress, the cotillions and proms, I had 8 or 9 girls' hair and makeup that I would do before. Really? I was the girl who pierced girls' ears and navels. Like, I did all the things. Like, all of it. I did all of it. And I loved it, and I was good at it. I had tweezers before any of my friends. Like, I just was, up on it. So, my self-care regime might be, and has maybe always been a little bit more thorough than one of my peers, per se. In my line of work or extracurricular activity, which is like the horses, it's predominantly an outside activity, and it is quite taxing physically. So a lot of my peers look a lot older than they are.
And they're not waxed and stretched and plucked and...
Maybe not so much. So, I guess the aesthetic side or the competency of using estheticians, I didn't ever have great skin as an adolescent. So getting facials was part of my routine to sustain clear skin as a teenager. But I also got an in. And I got a taste for it. And I realized that from being told as a young child with these older women working on my skin, good for you. When you're older, this will pay off.
Right.
But I also enjoyed it, was relaxed by it, saw the benefits, and I kept doing it. So now as a 36-year-old woman, I am as vain as they come. I'm not unattractive, but there's always room for self-improvement. And so I don't get up in the morning and put on my eyebrows or my eyelashes or my lipstick for anyone else. I put it on for myself. So when I look in the rearview mirror, I don't scare myself and then subsequently scare the person at the Walmart while I'm picking up the paper towels. So I think self-care is as much as a personal choice and investment as everyone's own fingerprint. How much priority do you put into that is your own, it's your own fabric. I enjoy the process. I enjoy feeling good about myself. I enjoy the satisfaction in a good procedure, a good pedicure, a good haircut, even though I cut my own hair, shocking. I'll cut your hair. But so yeah, I think self-care is very much specific to the person. I do feel like sometimes self-care as a wife, mother, equestrian gets thrown to the wayside maybe because an excuse maybe some of your clients feel that if they are not like myself who's been up on it from the time they were young, they don't do anything, and then all of a sudden at the age of 40 they're like, oh my God, Coralie, help me. But again, I think it's very customized to the woman specifically.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the relevance of this question is that women oftentimes have a difficult time with self-care. So I think the relevance of what should it look like for a woman, not to say that women need something per se different in self-care than any normal person would need in self-care, because I think, again, self-care is different for each individual.
I agree.
I think that women need to, and this is something I deal with a lot in my business, is reinstating to women that it's okay to participate in self-care. And oftentimes women are into their 40s or 50s or 60s before they're coming to me and realizing that they would like to do something for themselves because they've never allowed it to happen in the past for a number of reasons. And most often that comes down to some form of guilt. Guilt because they are typically taking care of other people and they don't feel, honestly, I think they don't feel that worth it.
Worthy,
Yeah. They feel that, and even, to be honest, even somebody like yourself who has been on top of it since they were very young, you describe yourself as vain. Why are you vain? Because you want to take care of yourself. Like, there had to be somewhere in there in your brain that you had to kind of knock yourself down for allowing yourself to take care of yourself.
Interesting.
Why is that? Right?
I never thought of it that way. Well, maybe to make this conversational, maybe my peers. Maybe I am an anomaly in a little bit of a way because I've always been into it, good at it, enjoyed the process, enjoyed, going to the Walgreens at midnight when you're in college and buying all the things and just
Wet and wild.
trying all the products just because you could. Like we live in a very quaint little home, but I don't have all the space now. But prior to moving out of my mother's home, I had bathrooms. Product, but I've always had a interest in it. But I feel maybe the vain comment because my peers that I grew up with in high school, college, and even early after college, none of my peers that were equestrian related ever even, like, they brushed their teeth and they walked out of the door in the morning. I would always, I had a routine. I had a skincare routine. I always put some form of makeup on because I enjoyed it and I liked putting it on. That's kind of what I just did. So, I bleach my teeth or wax my upper lip or, put some weird mask on my hair. And they would always
Make fun of me?
chuckle, but then like ask for help. But, it's just Katherine. Like if I opened the door at a hotel and I looked like, Mrs. Doubtfire with all the shit, that was me. And they knew that it was me. But if they ever needed help, I'd be the first person they came to. If they ever needed advice or suggestions, I'd be the first one they come to. But I was maybe a little bit on the spectrum far over here.
Right.
If this is normal, I was always maybe a little bit, in my next life I'll come back with an occupation like Glow because I would just do all of it and know all of it. But I don't know.
But it begs a very interesting question, and to be honest, it's a topic I would love to have an entire episode on, which is judgment. Judgment. I think that all people deal with judgment, and it debilitates them to a lot of degrees in their life. And I think that men absolutely deal with it, but I also think that women deal with it on a different level because we bring it onto ourselves.
Well, we are our own worst critics.
Right, 100%. Right, so we have that, and then we
That's
have
internal.
this whole thing of women on women that happens.
Well, then
Where like, look at this. So they come to you for help, but yet they're like, oh, that's Katherine. Oh, whatever. So you feel this like weird judgment that makes you describe yourself as vain because that's what you've been shown. Like you like these things because you're vain.
Right. Or versus just liking them them.
Versus just liking them and just feeling good about it.
Right.
And like, good for her. She looks great. She feels really good. That's awesome.
Right.
There always has to be this reason or judgment associated with feeling good, and that's such an issue that I have with women.
There should be no shame
in the women population.
Yeah.
If you feel good and look good,
own it,
and that circulates together, why should you feel shame in that?
You shouldn't.
And there is that, and it's so not fair. No. And this is exactly why there's things like for whatever reason, doing your hair and maybe your nails has kind of escaped at this point being completely judged.
No, that's the status quo now.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Beyond that, lashes, Botox, microblading,
all of the fun things,
filler, all of the newer technologies really that are out there to let us play.
Right. But to us it's play, to us it's enjoyment, to us it's fun, to us it's one less step in the morning that we would do anyway. But she and I might be,
But why? But see, you need.
But
it.
Why?
You're finding a reason to justify.
But
it.
why? But maybe it's because we truly, innately like playing in that sandbox, and for other women, we both are confident for whatever reason.
In general.
Okay. We have our idiosyncrasies and we have our weaknesses and our moments, but we are both articulate. I'm making a generalization about both of us, and I'm putting me in the own category.
Okay.
Articulate, intelligent, self-driven, attractive, and like to play in that sandbox, which is beauty, which is aesthetics, which is self-care. I think for some women, it might be overlooked because they don't feel worthy, they're insecure. There are reasons why they don't, maybe they haven't blossomed out of their shell yet. You know, they're still the caterpillar, they're not the butterfly yet. And I think for some women, maybe spending the time or the money, they feel like they're not worthy because maybe deep down in their guts, they're just not feeling like they're worthy. Maybe like you and I feel like we're worthy and we're empowered and we want to look in the mirror and feel, look, we're hot. We want to look good for ourselves and then for others. Like people will make comments and they'll be like, well, you know, my husband will make a comment about something and I'm like, I'm not doing it for you.
Right.
I am not doing this for you. This is for me.
Right.
So when I look in the mirror or when I look down or whatever, like, why do I try to eat healthy and why do I try to take care of myself? It's for my own body. We all get one. We get one go with this. We only get one. We get one way to get there.
Yep.
So I take care of it because I want to.
Right.
And I'm passionate about it. But maybe there's a level of security behind it that gives, I don't know. Maybe I'm generalizing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think that that's a deeper area to explore for sure. And, you know, I mean, looking at the two of us, I think that there's probably a lot that's happened to us that has allowed for us to go there.
Probably. Okay. Yeah.
I will say that when it comes to the category of self-care, quote unquote, in general, it's not the same for every person, and it's not the same for every woman.
Right.
I think that what is the same for every woman is regardless of how hardcore they go at it and how staunchly they say, this is what I want to do. There's either a piece of them that feels guilty for it, or somebody in their life that is trying to make them feel maybe a little guilty for it, or
so internal guilt and external guilt.
It's one or the other,
okay,
or both.
Okay,
and that's where I have such an issue because, and I don't want to make this a woman-man thing because I don't feel like it's the men that are doing this to us. I feel like more often it's women that are doing it to each other. But men, so I'll pause for a second and kind of go back to something really quickly. I was asked not too long ago to categorize my clients as far as who does what and why.
Demographically.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was for women, because I do have male clients. For women, it was a very wide range of age and reasons. Very emotional based, demographic based as far as age, circumstance, etc. For men, it was very simple.
Which was?
It was very simple for men because the reason that men want to do this are either they are young and potentially gay, just because they're a little more in touch with all this and they love it, so good for them, rah-rah.
Right.
A little, I don't want to necessarily say older, but divorcing.
Okay. New chapter in life, new lease.
So
fresh face.
Looking for women.
Yep, on the prowl.
Or not married yet and looking for women.
Okay.
So basically it all
on
came down to
vanity.
Getting laid.
Yeah.
And the difference in the motivation, besides getting laid, because women want to get laid too, but for women, it's more about making themselves feel good.
Yes.
Men, it's all about
hooking
being
the fish.
Attractive to the opposite sex or the same sex, whichever, but being attractive to somebody else. But the difference was men had no qualms about it. No qualms about the money they were spending, doing it in general. Once they made the decision, that was fine. They was fine with it.
Okay.
There was no guilt.
Okay.
Men had no guilt with making this decision for whatever reason they're making it, which is
Okay.
typically rounded around the same topic.
Okay.
Versus women had numerous different issues of why they were doing it at the different points in their life, and almost all of them had some sort of guilt associated with it.
So almost like they had to justify
Yes.
it.
Almost every woman gives me a story as to why.
Isn't that interesting?
And
Interesting.
they're explaining themselves. Yes.
Interesting.
And it kind of breaks my heart.
Okay. But that's why we're here.
So I think that's maybe a good place to end.
Perfect. Okay. So closing notes.
So closing notes are. Would you like to close?
Sure. Thank you all for joining us this evening to open up a very vast topic. This is just chapter 1 for Corley, and hopefully I can come back again and commentate on and give some anecdotal funny stories. But I think the take-home point is that being a woman, regardless of your age or race or marital status or status of being a parent or trying to be a parent or whatever the circumstances are, being a woman is hard. It is so hard. And life is hard. Let's back it up. Life is hard. And being a woman is complex. I'm going to use that word instead. And so lots more to come, lots more topics and categories to discuss, but we look forward to it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
And yeah, this is really exciting. This was the first episode of In Her Skin, and I really want to preface that the reason we're choosing that title is because there is something so complex, to use your word, and incredible about being in the skin of a woman. We're pretty amazing creatures, and I think that we really need to acknowledge that and let go of a lot of shit and talk about a lot of shit and realize that we're not alone and we are all so much more similar than we realize.
And worthy.
And worthy.
Yeah.
And we need to stop judging each other
Yeah.
and stop judging ourselves and pursue some happiness and kind of celebrate that. So, and again, my point in my business of helping women feel great is for them to feel great in their skin, whatever that means. If that means a unit of Botox in their forehead, and that makes them walk away feeling fabulous in their skin,
Own it.
then boom.
Awesome.
So feel great in your skin, ladies, and we will talk to you soon.
Have a good night. Thank you.